What's the difference between a copywriter that charges $10 to write a website on Fiverr and one that charges $1,000 for the same thing? Why do some copywriters make $100,000, $200,000 per year while everyone else struggles to get by? Hi, I'm Jesse, a freelance copywriter with 20 years of experience. I've worked with hundreds of clients and coached marketing teams at Chanel, Disney, and Sony. In this video, I'm going to be sharing the different mindsets, behaviors, and actions of rich copywriters that are doing very well and then broke copywriters that are struggling. Generally, a wealthy copywriter is someone that chooses a niche specialty. They decide they're going to become the health and wellness copywriter, the Bitcoin copywriter, whatever niche they choose. And they specifically look for in-demand, profitable niches that have lots of money for marketing and advertising. And specifically in those niches, they choose larger size businesses. If they're a bigger business, they've got bigger budgets to spend on copywriters. And that's very different to what most broke copywriters do. Broke copywriters are generalists. They'll write about anything for anyone. So they'll write for all types of different niches. Sometimes that's okay in the beginning of your career. If you're still finding your feet, you're not sure what niche or niches you want to write about, then it's okay. I certainly wrote for lots of different people. But as you find your feet and understand which niches are more profitable and which ones you actually enjoy writing about, those are the ones you want to zone in on and spend more time in. And what we found is that a lot of AI tools like ChatGPT can also easily write about general topics, whereas it has more difficulty writing about specialized niches where you need to have some expertise or understanding in that niche. If you're a generalist copywriter writing about very broad topics, then you're more likely to be replaced by tools like ChatGPT. I want to give you a quick example that I think makes this point really well. So if you were going to get married, or maybe you are married and looking for a wedding photographer, did you know that the average wedding photographer is charging anywhere between $2,500 to $5,000 for one day taking wedding photos? Whereas a generalist photographer taking, say, portrait photography might earn anywhere from $300 to $600 to take someone's portrait as well. So obviously those are different, but if you look at the earnings difference between the same person holding a camera pointing at a bride and groom versus them pointing at someone getting their headshots for their job, and look at the difference in the income. Why is that? Well, that's because a wedding photographer is a specialist photographer. They specialize in just shooting weddings. They don't do other types of photography. And as a result, they're known as a high-priced specialist. Whereas a photographer that takes photography for anyone, for any subject matter or occasion, is not a specialist. I also want to give another example of a graphic designer living in London. Their main client was a nightclub that wanted them to design flyers to promote different parties or events. This graphic designer was getting paid about $50 per time they created a new flyer. That graphic designer was given the advice to, look, you're probably in the wrong market. You're writing for nightclubs and they're not valuing your services very much. What if you took your design skills and decided to offer design to luxury hotels in Dubai? What if you actually started pitching to those hotels your design services? That's exactly what this designer did. And they went on to design brochures, a little bit more work than a flyer, but they earned $3,000 per brochure that they designed. So simply by switching into a lucrative niche, you can earn far more money than if you're working in a niche that doesn't value copywriting. And that brings us to lesson number 2, which is value-based pricing, really pricing strategies. How do you price your services so you maximize what you can earn as a copywriter? So what rich copywriters often do is that they charge based on the value that their copy generates. What does that mean, value? Well, think about this. What is one more client worth to the business that I'm writing for? If I'm writing for a particular business, what do they sell? Do they sell products or services? And how much do their products or services cost? Because if I'm writing an email sequence for them, or if I'm updating their website copy or a landing page or an ad, if my copy is able to generate even just one more client for this business, what will that copy be worth? What will the return on investment be? Because if you're working for a luxury hotel in Dubai and the average stay there is, let's say, 3 nights, and it costs $1,000 or $2,000 per night to stay there, just one new customer to their hotel is going to be worth at least $6,000. So you could justify charging $3,000 for a brochure, knowing that you'll probably bring in a lot more than just one customer, and therefore you can justify your prices. So that's what rich copywriters do. They don't just charge per word or per hour. They actually think a little bit deeper. What is my copy actually worth? If it works, what does the business, my client, stand to gain from my words? Another thing a rich copywriter does is they'll sometimes ask for a percentage of the increase in sales. So let's say the business is making $100,000 per month and they write copy that increases their sales by 10% or 20% or even more. Then they say, I would like to earn 5% of the increase that my copy helps generate. So this creates a win-win partnership. I've even seen some copywriters approach companies where they'll say, I believe I can write copy that's going to dramatically improve your sales, but I don't want you to pay me unless it does. So if my copy increases your sales, I would like to earn 5% or even 10% of that increase. If it doesn't work, if you don't make more sales, then you don't have to pay me a cent. But if it does increase, I want 5% of that increase. So instead of just getting a one-off fee for writing that copy, they're actually earning royalties on the copy that they wrote one time. And those royalties could last a year or even multiple years. If you want to maximize your earnings, why not offer that kind of percentage deal? You could create a win-win partnership, and smart business owners will absolutely welcome that kind of deal, because a smart, rich copywriter knows that if the copy generates thousands or even tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, they should be paid accordingly because they helped to make that happen. Now, this is not what broke copywriters do, unfortunately. Most copywriters out there are charging per hour or per word. Now, the reason why I don't recommend this, although as a beginner you might start out in doing this, the reason why I don't recommend it is because it's like having a job. It's a 9 to 5. In fact, it's worse because you're only getting paid for that project. You're not getting an ongoing retainer, which we'll talk about in a moment. So you're trading time for money when you're doing, I charge $25 per hour to write copy, or I charge 10 cents per word, hours for dollars or dollars for words. And so you're not really maximizing what you can earn. They're literally just someone that writes words on a page. So we want to think deeper than that, more intelligently than that, and certainly you'll be able to make a lot more money. Which brings us to lesson number 3, retainers versus one-time project fees. A rich copywriter is someone that looks to solve an ongoing problem that business has through their writing service. This is also a great way to find clients by looking at a client's website, their business or their marketing, and look for, do they have any problems? Do they have a blog? Do they have an email newsletter? Do they have a website? Do they lack content? Are they missing out on opportunities? When you think about yourself as a problem solver, you'll be more valuable to a business. And then you want to offer your services as an ongoing retainer. By doing that, you'll be able to earn a sustainable, reoccurring income from each client, as opposed to just getting paid per project. So when you're thinking about working with a client, can you identify an ongoing need that they have when it comes to their content or their marketing or their advertising? This is a great example I want to share with you. Maybe they have an inactive blog, meaning that business has a blog. Maybe they've got a couple of blog posts, but the last one they published was 2 years ago. That shows they obviously valued blogs and content marketing, but for whatever reason they stopped. That's a problem. You can identify that problem, point it out and say, would you like me to write weekly blog posts for you so you can get more Google traffic, so you can stay relevant in the marketplace? Another one might be a neglected email list. Literally just yesterday, one of my former clients called me and he said, I've noticed you published a weekly newsletter. I subscribe to it. I get all of your emails. I think they're great. And I realized that I don't do that. And I really should. I've got a big database. We never email them. And we're missing out on opportunities. Can you write a weekly newsletter for me? And can you also write LinkedIn posts? Because my LinkedIn is not very active. I rarely post on there. But when I do go to LinkedIn, I see that all of my competitors, they're publishing all the time. They're posting on LinkedIn all the time. And I just feel like I'm missing out. I should be considered a thought leader in my industry, but I'm not because I never post. Can you also write LinkedIn posts? So then I pitched to him an ongoing monthly retainer, and that's going to allow me to get an ongoing income from that client, and also for that client to be able to be a thought leader in their industry. So it's a win-win, right? So ghostwriters can typically earn anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 per month per client, and they might write a mix of social media posts, emails, and things of that nature. After a while of freelancing for different clients, they might actually decide to go and work in-house as a full-time employee. Sometimes you can work remotely, and that's great as well because you get to stay at home, you get to work on the road. I've done that before. I traveled around Thailand. I had a remote job as a coach and a writer for a company, and that was awesome. So I got to travel. I had the same freedom, but I was working remotely, getting a full-time salary from that particular client. So you could do that. You could, after a while doing freelancing, you could decide that maybe you want a remote job, or maybe you do actually want to work in an office and be around other people. Some people like to do that. You could even upskill from just being someone that writes words to doing more of a content marketing manager type role. Some content marketing manager roles will pay from $100,000 up to $200,000 per year, which is an incredible amount of money. And the responsibilities are some management, strategic thinking, a little bit more than the average freelancer will do, but could make considerably more income and have that consistent salary coming in every single year. So it's definitely something to consider as well. You can work remotely, you could work part-time for another company, and it just allows you to maximize your income. Unfortunately, this is not what broke copywriters do. They don't think about maximizing their income. They're usually focused on one-time projects. So their career is just a string of one-time projects that they deliver for clients, and they get a one-time fee. The income is inconsistent, and you're constantly hunting for new clients. In the beginning of my career, I was just working on one-time projects. I was out there looking for clients, take a lot of effort to find that client, chat with that client, deliver the project, and then I've got to start it all over again, find another client and go through that process. Unfortunately, that means you're starting that whole process every single time, like a Groundhog Day. And that's okay in the beginning, especially if you're earning good money for those one-time projects and you've got a number of them lined up. But after a while, you're going to want to think about how can you sell retainer services where you're getting that ongoing income from a handful of clients that have you on that retainer kind of arrangement. You can earn a lot more money consistently. And that brings us to lesson number 4, which is all about marketing and getting clients. So a rich copywriter is always marketing themselves and looking for better, higher paying opportunities. They don't just rest where they are and think, I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. They're looking for bigger and better opportunities all the time. They're consistently marketing their services. Too many freelance copywriters I speak to don't spend very much time at all marketing their services. So they're constantly in that feast and famine cycle, which you definitely want to avoid. So what a rich copywriter will do is they'll commit to a consistent schedule of self-promotion. For me, I spend the first 2 hours every morning. The first task I do is marketing, right? It's client getting activities. I've got a whole bunch of different activities that I follow because I know if I do this every day, I'll always have plenty of opportunities, plenty of clients. And that's what makes me different from the vast majority of freelancers out there that never really bother to consistently market themselves. They also invest in their business through advertising and lead generation. So they don't just treat freelancing as a hobby, they treat it as a business. They actually invest in growing their business and they attend high-value conferences and events. Sure, there's lots of free conferences or local meetups you can attend, and I recommend that, especially if you don't have much of a budget. In the beginning of my career, I grew fast because I attended lots of paid events. It was enough to qualify the people attending to show that they were also serious about growing their businesses. I picked up some high-paying clients from those events. Some of those clients went on to hire me continuously for years. The upside I got from a small investment to pay to go to an event paid itself off many, many times over. And it allows you access to those high-paying clients. If you invest in yourself, you're much more likely to meet higher quality clients than opposed to, say, going to free events where the quality might be a bit lower. And this also goes with online networking. You could join paid communities where there's business owners or marketing professionals. If they're paying to be there, they probably have a budget for copywriters. And you'll probably be the only copywriter in there, which means you'll have your lion's share of the clients. So unfortunately, broke copywriters don't do this. They almost never invest in themselves and their business. They don't treat it as a real business. It's more of a hobby. They shy away from networking opportunities, thinking it's a waste of time or why would I spend money to go to an event? And then they wonder why they don't have any clients. And I think that's a shame. It's one thing to be introverted. That's okay. I myself am introverted, but what I've done is I've taken friends or my partner at the time to support me to let's go to an event together and let them know ahead of time, look, I want to meet people at this event. I want to get clients. If you see me standing in the corner holding a drink and not talking to anyone, please encourage me, please push me, please say, hey, let's go meet this person together. I remember in Las Vegas many years ago, I was at an event excited to market my business, but I was feeling a bit shy. I saw a marketing guru I wanted to meet, and it was my girlfriend that said, come on, let's go meet him. She grabbed me by the shoulder, dragged me over there, and he was really friendly and nice and turned out to be one of my clients, which was so awesome. So definitely embrace networking. Even if you're an introvert, it's worth it. You can make some great connections and potentially meet some clients. Unfortunately, broke copywriters are also inconsistent when it comes to marketing themselves, or just simply never do it. And it's a real shame. You've got to promote yourself if you want to get clients. If you don't, you're basically invisible. No one knows you exist. They can't hire you. So what are you going to do to promote yourself? You've got to think about 1 or 2 strategies that you can do every single day, and that's going to allow you to get clients. If you want help with all of this, from reviewing your portfolio to holding you accountable, I do offer one-on-one coaching. If that's something you're interested in, you can apply by clicking on the link in the description below this video. Thanks so much for watching, and bye for now.